Hey, Artyom,
So
before
ever
we
since,
begin,
yeah,
I need
go
your
for it.
help. This is for our part
Yes.
later. How do I pronounce your full name?
The full version is Artyom.
Artyom?
It's a bit tricky.
Yes.
Artyom. Yeah, well, that's quite close. Yes.
Wait. Did you say it's closed?
Yeah,
So
it's
not
close. It's close.
exactly. Say that one more time.
Artyom.
Artyom.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Artyom. And last name, full name, please.
It's just like the way it's written. Mushin Makedonsky.
Mushin Makedonsky.
Yeah, exactly. I'm wondering why you need this information because I literally have no idea.
You will find out very soon.
Okay. So for all of you, dear audience, ever since we've connected with Esther for an interview, I guess 1 or 2 years ago, we discussed this opportunity to connect for the conference. And we talked about how it would be a great opportunity to give you a glimpse of a talk between experts rather than a presentation, because we have like 30 of these. So we will have several questions between us that we will just ask and answer, and we will have an improv game. Again, no idea.
I can't wait.
Yes. So why don't we just dive into it? And let just for the starters, can you tell our audience a bit about yourself? How did this all happen, and where did it come from?
The format of this session?
No, I mean you yourself, like a short.
Tell everybody a little bit about myself.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Esther Choy, and coming to you from sunny Chicago, which is kind of rare for this time of the year. I am based here. I've lived here for 20 years, and about 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago, I started teaching storytelling. Before, at least here, it was really a thing. I purposely decided not to focus on industry or functions because there are a great deal that I've learned from scientists as well as from artists, as well as from fundraisers in nonprofit, as well as from investment. Namely that we all have to influence and persuade. And so I've been running this for over 10 years, taught at Northwestern, is still teaching there as an adjunct professor. Wrote the book, published the book, Let the Story Do the Work about 3 years ago. And I really believe that you don't have to have creativity or a background in literature or in the primary language in which you operate and do business. I believe that there's a process to creating compelling stories. And that's what the book is about. That's what I'm all about. If you're creative, if you're naturally good at storytelling, you roll out of bed every morning and the stories just flow out of your mouth, good for you. I'm not one of those people. Most of the people I work with are not like that. But the beautiful thing about having storytelling process is that it doesn't matter if you feel creative or energized or I've had my muse today with me. It does not matter. You will have what you need in order to create your story. And then as Artyom alluded to, everyone, we have a improv. And he has no idea what I'm about to make him do. He's a great sport. He trusted me. And so we're just going to roll with it. He had no idea what we're going to do, but I think he'll be impressed with himself. And I think all of you will too.
Sounds lovely. Why don't I just ask you a little bit more questions before we go into the improv, because they fit right into this introduction. And given that you just said you're not a storytelling person like from the past, and people around you are, so in that part, give me a story, an all-time favorite story actually, of how storytelling really helped you create a great result for a leader, since it's a leadership conference.
Yeah, in fact, I have several, but the one that I think really has a lot to do with what we're going to talk about today, storytelling for leaders, is not so much about us telling our stories. So I have a client here in town, a CPG company, consumer packaged good company. They're the largest in their category, at least in the US. Well recognized name brand, all of that. But for some reason, they have a hard time recruiting talents, MBA talents from business schools. And so they really wonder, are we telling the wrong stories? Is our story not strong enough? What's wrong with our story? So I was tapped to look into it for them. The issue didn't take me very long to uncover. The issue was that they were too focused on themselves. They're too focused on who they are, how big they are, how dominant in the market they are, how innovative they are, how awesome their career tracks are, and on and on and on. The thing is, their presentation, their storyline isn't audience centric. It's very self focused, it's very us focused. Look at how awesome we are. Don't you want to join us? Don't you want to be a part of us? When all the other companies are basically saying the same thing in whatever industry they dominate, whatever credentials they have, stats that they have. So, what I redo their entire deck was that you don't start with yourself, actually. You start with the audience. So, because they're very dominant in the food category, I designed an interactive exercise that they do with their students that asks them to recall their favorite food moment. They don't say a whole lot about anything, and they get the students, the MBA students, think about, at the time when they travel, at the time when they're with family, at the time when they first got married, so on and so forth. That's about food. And then they share in a small group, they share in a large group. And then I train the presenter to tease out the theme that you hear across these different stories that students shared, and use that as a bridge to lead in to talk about the company. And so in the middle, there's, your expected content. But then at the end is when you put the focus back on the students, the audience, and ask them to think about in what ways can you picture yourself, your future in this environment. So you begin with the audience, you end with the audience. And their internship, the full-time offer, increased almost yield 20%, which is huge the first year. And every single year, the yield has skyrocketed, because it's really hard to forget a company presentation when your own story, personal story, has become a part of that story. And not only that, the students tell other students. Guess what I just attended this afternoon? I've never attended one like this. So on and so forth. That's not only because it gets to the core of what you're trying to say, but you put the audience front and center first instead of your own. So it's really my favorite story
Love it. It's a great shift of perspective, something we really tend to forget over time when we do this work for at least some time. Thank you for sharing that. That's good
Of course.
to hear such good stories that end well. But let me ask you a different question here. Um, how about maybe a time when some kind of mishap happened and your technique or something that you taught instead of working failed, but nevertheless it taught you a great deal of things about storytelling and leadership.
Yeah, in the beginning, I follow this model that is based out of Joseph Campbell, the paramount figure, and I think everybody knows who he is. That's the person who studied mythologies across time and culture. It's very foundational. It's just too complicated. I'm sure you've seen, most people have even studied this a little bit or attended other sessions. They're usually around 10 to 12 steps, the hero's journeys. And there are as many as 17. I love the fact that it's research-based and science-based. I realized this approach didn't work that well because there's too many steps. Who's going to remember 12 steps in all the stories they create? And so I decided to simplify it, beginning, middle, and an end. That's a great start, but it still doesn't work all that well. And so I eventually, because I'm very US based, eventually, no matter who I talk to, what level, how experienced, new, or very senior, I say IRS. And in the States, IRS tend to inspire certain anxiety because IRS, most people know it as Internal Revenue Services, our tax collection body. But my IRS is very different. My IRS is intriguing beginning, riveting middle, and then satisfying end. So I stands for intriguing beginning, R stands for riveting middle, and S stands for satisfying end. And it doesn't matter if you're having a phone conversation, you're doing a high-powered pitch, you're having, a cooler catching up with your colleagues once things go back to normal and you do go back to an office to work, or whether you are constructing a story and whatnot, it works every time. So my general rule of thumb now is simpler is better. Simplify it as much as possible for your audience, because at the end of the day, very few people actually remember a whole lot 24 hours after the fact, and especially a whole week after the fact.
That is actually true, but I mean, the way you pose it is quite close to the way Aristotle's take on the story structure. But I like the IRS metaphor, and it's really handy there. Let me tease you a little bit more. Even I was even asking for this time when this thing that you were actually using, the hero's journey, kind of failed, and you come up with that. So, what was the experience like? What was behind this, discovery of IRS for you? How was it?
Oh, before I go on, can you show me again how to minimize or how to turn off the translation?
Of course.
For me.
Yes. So in the three dots on like you put the mouse over the translated the three dots there. I know this platform is yeah. Check.
Yes.
Okay.
And we even ran through that, and I forgot.
Yes, we went through that. Don't worry.
Okay.
Go back to the question.
All right. So when the question was, when did I come to realize that maybe the hero's journey is a little complicated, and how did I come to IRS?
Yeah, like how did it happen for you? Because I had this quite close insight, but I'm interested. What's your story behind this transformation?
Well, it actually didn't take very long to realize that this is complicated. I mean, this is complicated for me to learn, and this is my job, so I should learn it. But in the beginning, I thought, well, this is part of learning, so everybody should just bite the bullet and learn it. And it takes time. And I just realized that time is the most precious resource. One of the few, I think, our health and time and personal relationship are the three most important resources we have. And if what I'm teaching requires so much resource from people, then there's got to be a better way. So one is awareness. Two is having done this for a while, the more you have mastery of something, the more you are able to simplify it. Not water it down, but simplify it. So after I become aware of it, it's too much. And then I've taught it enough, long enough. And then one day there is that stroke of genius. I won't deny that. You know, I've been saying beginning, middle, and an end, but how should the beginning look like? How should the middle look like? How should the end look like? And it's just sort of came together. It felt like it was a moment of genius, but it was actually hours and hours of thinking time that got me to this point.
I'll accept that.
Yeah. How do you handle it?
You mean?
Yeah, I mean this hero's journey. It's the most complete, thorough.
Oh, yeah.
Map, if you will, right? But there's so many steps.
Well, I had this. I don't. Honestly, I don't. I tried using it in the beginning of the career, and I had this instance when I felt that it just failed me miserably. So there was a girl on the training, and I asked her to remember a story based on like 8 elements out of the hero's journey. I thought, look, okay, 8, she can handle 8. Let's give her that. Yeah. So then she went in and she tried to remember very hard. She was like, and then she said, Artyom, I don't have any story. I'm sorry. I remember this episode, but it's not a story. And I went like, okay, tell it. And she told it, and she said, okay, I had this episode when I was in the middle of a training, and I was really exhausted, like in the middle of the day. And in the evening of the same day, I was sitting in an airplane, and I was like, oh my God, I have another training next day, and I'm so exhausted. It's only Tuesday. Oh my God, I'm so in pain. My back is in pain. And then the child, 3 rows ahead of her, starts crying, like miserably crying. And she's like, I hate my life. At some point, she says that she wanted to kick this child. And she said, I'm feeling worse than Hitler because of these thoughts, because like I don't like myself right now, but I can't stop this madness coming up from me. I'm like red, and I'm like want to punch somebody. And then his father, his miserable father, who's like in the same seat with him, he's listening to this noise, and he starts to comfort the child. And then at some point, he managed to direct his attention to the window, and the child just got quiet and said, Papa, облака, which means father, clouds. And the father just got up and said, oh my God, he just said his first word, except for the parents. He said clouds. Well, and in this minute, she's sitting there, she's saying, in this minute, I feel like all my anger, all my disgust, it just vanishes. And now I'm criticizing myself. And then I'm filled with joy. And this all happens in the seconds, in splittest moments. And this was the best flight of my life. And everyone sitting quietly. And then she says this, but this is not a story, right? Because it doesn't follow the structure. Damn it! Never use the structure again. Never. Always start with people telling like the stuff from their life. This is my instance of quitting on the hero's journey. Really, this just got me.
Well, I think that fits it quite well. She's got an intriguing beginning. She's got a riveting middle. She's got a satisfying end.
Yeah.
How is it not a story? And I always
Hers
say,
does. Yeah.
yeah, if it doesn't help you, then throw it away. It doesn't matter who has it come from and how revered, respected, highly respected that person. If it doesn't help you, don't use it. Use what helps you. Because everybody recognizes a great story when they hear one, but it's really hard to create one, I agree. If you've already got one or you know how to do it, then just do it. Don't worry about the structure. But for a lot of people, it is helpful as a starting point.
Yes, that is exactly true. That is true. You know what? I just was thinking about one more question I wanted to ask you before we move forward. This IRS.
You're not trying to delay it, avoid that improv.
No, I'm not. I'm just curious. I'm not trying to avoid anything. This IRS seems like really an easy trick, like something small that really works. And I just thought maybe you had some other small trick that you could share with us in terms of something that can help leaders, but is relatively easy.
Sure. Maybe it can help you. But I have to think of a series of really good questions to demonstrate how it works. Here it is. If you get asked a question, you don't know the answer, or you think you don't know the answer, but you're in the spotlight. People are looking at you. They're waiting, they're listening, they're waiting, and you felt like, oh my gosh, I didn't think about this. I didn't prepare this. Oh my gosh, maybe I should have. How could I have this oversight? And now I'm in a spot. What do I do? So instead of IRS, we think PREP, P-R-E-P. Okay, so P stands for point. R stands for reasons. E stands for example. And P stands for point again. The same point that you started is the same point you're going to end this. Should we try it out? Yeah?
But you want to do it?
All right. So what Artem very graciously and courageously agreed to do is this improv game that has 3 rounds. And all he has is a handout that I emailed to him a couple of hours ago. I asked him, just have it ready. Don't look at it. Okay? So this is an idea generation game. Because oftentimes what I get asked is, how do I cover everything? How do I become thorough? Well, thorough is really a dirty word for storytelling. You don't want to be thorough, but you want to be relevant and impactful. And so this is a way to help people think about, what do I tell other people about myself? Because it's really hard. You know yourself well, the best person, perhaps, because you know all the demographic data, all the informational data about yourself, but just regurgitating your resume, that's not telling stories, right? So we're using this game as a springboard to think of an intriguing, riveting, and satisfying way to say something about ourselves. Okay, that's all I'm going to say.
You got me there.
Let the game begins. Okay, let the game begins. Okay, so Artem, I need you to pick a random number between 1 and 20.
Okay, 13. I'm not prejudiced, by the way, but That's the number of the floor I was living on for like the majority of my life.
Okay, 13. All right, good. So I'm going to play this with you. So my random number is going to be 8.
Okay.
So I just type in the chat. You have 13, I have 8. Now, in the handout I sent you,
Yes.
there are 20 questions.
Oh.
13 then correspond to question number 13, and 8 correspond to
Question 8.
question 8. So that's the questions that you have randomly chosen for yourself, Arjun, to share with all of us. I'll ask you to read the questions and then take a moment to share your answer. Don't overthink it. Just what comes to you is what you're going to share with everyone.
So do I need to use the prep or just answer?
No. This is not prep. Well, if you want prep, sure.
Okay. Okay. I'll just play along. I'm not quite sure where this is going. Okay. So the first question is number 13. What do you do when you're not working? Okay. I like playing board games. Really, that's a passion. I like reading a lot. Like if I could show you this bookshelf, I'm just at this moment I'm on this one. It's called the Cards of Narrative Practice by Michael White. It's storytelling on a deeper level, I would say, the father of the storytelling.
Okay.
And
what is the name of the board game again?
The board game is I like a lot of them. The most recent one, my wife gave me Monopoly as a gift, and we played really. I really don't know where we were going. So is that enough, or do I have to,
No, that's okay. So you like to play board games, and most recent one was one your wife gave you Monopoly. Do you play mostly with her, or with friends, or with other family member?
I'm a young father. I don't have any friends. I'm just kidding. I play with her and with her younger sister. We live in one place, so.
Okay, so how young is your child, if I don't mind?
It's 2 and it takes me too long to answer this question. He was 2 in August, so it's not 3 and not 2, 2.5 yet. Let's just. Yeah. I'm not counting months after one year, so.
Right, of course.
So, father of the year.
Yeah. Boy or girl?
Boy.
Okay, boy. All right. So my turn.
Yes.
I have number 8. What is one thing outside of work that you're most proud of, and why? This one, a lot of people say family, and that would be the same for me. But I'll just give you something different. By the way, you might want to take some notes on what I say too. One thing I'm very proud of outside of work is that I push myself in the sports arena. I am not particularly athletic. I exercise, but that's about it. I started learning skiing when I was 40 years old, right alongside with my 2 little kids. And it's very humbling to learn skiing as an adult. But every single winter, I get back to the slope. And recently, I started picking up kite surfing. Oh, that is the hardest physical thing I've ever had to learn. And I'm still learning. And it's even more humbling. I would actually say it's humiliating to learn kite surfing. But it doesn't deter me. I get right back to it every chance I have. Okay, that concludes round 1. That's it. Okay, all right, round 2. I'll give you a moment to quickly read through all 20 questions And then your job, before we dive right into round 2, is to circle or highlight all the questions that appeal to you.
Okay. Why don't I do that?
Okay. And then in the meantime, you can mute me and you can say something to the audience so that we don't have this moment of awkward silence when you're reading through.
Since I've been through it, I think I can do it fairly easy.
Okay. So I won't say anything.
Okay.
While you do it.
No, I'm actually done. Yeah, I've been reading it.
Okay. Okay, good. All right. So for round 2, you will select one question that you wish you were asked in round 1.
So I get to choose anyone.
You get to choose anyone other than 8 and 13.
Okay. I'm choosing 1.
Ooh, okay. And I would choose number 9.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead. Let us know what number 1 is, and then go ahead and answer it.
Yes. The first question is, and I still have no idea where this is going. If you could interview anyone living or dead, but not a celebrity, who would it be and why? I really like questions like this, like hypothesis questions. They're really showing what it all is about. And for me, there was a time when I was listening to a lot of TED Talks on storytelling in the beginning of my career again. At that point, I just didn't realize the books are way easier to to understand than random TED Talks. But whatever, we just start at some point. So I was listening to this TED Talk, and this man was talking about a woman from she was Jewish, and she had the special title. She was called, if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to offend anyone, but the title was Dritzilla. And this was a title that was passed down from a grandmother to a granddaughter. And to attain this title, a young girl needed to learn by heart 1,000 stories until she got 18 or 21. I'm not sure what the age of needed past is. And this is actually a person who is telling the stories to heal community, to spread the words, and be this cultural center in a way. And I would love to interview this kind of person in my life, because that's I would say that among the people who are practicing stories, these people just have an immense understanding of story. And yeah, I would love to talk with such a human being.
So it's a cultural-based title or honorific that one only earns after having learned 1,000 stories.
Yeah, there's some sort of an exam. I'm not quite sure about how accurate this TED Talk was, but what got me really inspired was that such a woman was sitting in the front row, so the speaker must have been accurate, in order to be polite and ethical.
Yeah, exactly. Huh, okay. All right. Well, thank you. You're done with your part. And then that's my part. Number 9 is, tell us something most people don't know about you. Because of what I do, because of my public persona, people tend to assume that I'm an extrovert. I can be animated. I can be funny accidentally. But I have to be fairly outgoing, especially when I'm in front of people doing coaching, training, and whatnot. But I'm actually an introvert. I would say that I'm a well-adjusted introvert. Reason being, I don't dread networking anymore, once we go back to normal. And I think I can be effective at it. But what I've learned right now is that because I'm an introvert doing a lot of extrovert work, I feel completely drained after giving a talk, doing a training. And so now I've learned to space my time so that I give myself time to recover instead of scheduling one thing after another, after another. Okay. All right. That's it.
Yes, I was just typing the things down. So,
Okay.
okay.
You still have no idea what this is all about, but you're about to, because we're on round 3 now. Round 3 is I get to choose a question for you and you get to choose a question for me, and that's it.
Oh, I will actually delegate my rights. I want the audience to choose a number between 1 and 20, except from 8 and 9 for Esther.
For 8 and 9. Okay, good
So
idea.
the first...
I will delegate that to the audience. Wait, but they don't. Oh, they're just going to randomly pick the questions.
Yes.
Okay.
So Alessi picked the number for you, number 1.
Okay.
And I guess number 16 is for me. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm sorry. The fastest is the winner. Just don't log out because we didn't choose your question. I beg you. Okay, number 16.
Number 16 for Artum and number 1 for me.
Yeah.
If I could interview anyone living or dead but not a celebrity, and who would it be and why? I would love to interview my paternal grandmother. I never get to meet her, and she presided over a dying family dynasty. In fact, my family back so many generations ago were relatively well off. Tons of natural resources, rubber trees, and exclusive cigarettes and alcohol licenses, and the first one on their island to have automobiles, on and on and on. Then World War II hit, and the family business had been dying, and they had no money, and all the relatives in the surrounding islands who were trying to run away from the Japanese Imperial Army all huddled together, ran off into the mountain in Indonesia, and then she sold off every single last piece of her jewelry to feed the family of like at least 24 people for nearly 4 years. But I was told she was the kindest, most compassionate, and even keel, laid-back person. Unfortunately, I had not had a chance to even meet in person. So she's definitely not a celebrity, but I would definitely love to interview her.
That makes my heart warm. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, 16 for you.
Yeah, my question is, what is one thing in your professional life that you are very proud of, but have not listed on your resume or CV? I love it.
Or LinkedIn or anywhere else, not on your company website and things like that, but it's part of your professional.
Part of professional life that I haven't listed on my CV. Okay, this is gonna be weird, but what the hell? For quite some time, during my early training career, when the offline was a thing and we didn't just sit in the house for all day in front of the computer, so that was such a time, just believe me. And I was dragging with myself a knife that my friend gave me for birthday. It's not just a knife, it's a set of tools like a screwdriver, etc., etc. And once I was on a training session, and I was this, like, not the senior trainer, but the trainee, in like, it was, I guess, 6 years ago or 5 again. I'm not quite sure. And the flip chart, it fell apart because the trainer just, put the hand on it, and it just fell, and the leg broke off. And they were like, oh my God, we cannot do anything about it. And out of the blue, I just take out this knife and I'm like, I can do it. And the faces of the people were just, oh my God, how did they know? Oh my God, did somebody tell him it's going to be broken? Like it was crazy. And I'm just later like whistling, fixing this flip chart. It was amazing, but you cannot put this on CV. Nobody would.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not sure
yeah.
which traits of a character does this strange idea of bringing a toolkit with you represent. Maybe some kind of paranoia or perfectionism. I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Well, thank you. That concludes the end of round 3. And here's the next part of this exercise that I'm not going to ask you to do in the interest of time, but I'm going to do it just to demo it, and then I'm going to debrief it really quick in the interest of time, because I have a ton of questions for you. I would love to be able to ask at least 1 or 2 of them. Okay, so what I'm going to do after having listened to your answers to these 3 questions, right? You pick number 13, number 1, and then somebody pick number 16 for you, is now I'm going to introduce Artem Mushin Makedonsky to everyone. But here's how I'm going to do it. What makes a story truly riveting? In fact, what makes a storyteller truly riveting? I would argue that he or she must possess a dichotomy of character. This person must be very prepared and knowledgeable of all things story related, but this person also has to be ready to throw out everything he knows and live in the moment and run with the moment. And this is why I would like everyone to meet my colleague and the brain behind this amazing Storyfying Your Leadership conference, Mr. Artem Mushin Makedonsky. You see, he is a father of a young child. He has a full-time job and an entrepreneur. But when he's not working, he's still playing board games with his wife's sister, and even in the earlier days when he's learning the rope of storytelling, he would just imagine himself being able to be in a place to interview someone who can earn the title of a very special name after she has learned 1,000 stories. And to be able to throw out what he knows and be able to improvise, as you can tell, what I've gone through, make him gone through, that although he knows everything about storytelling, I would say he bleeds stories, but he's also someone who would carry a set of knife tools with him to a training so that if and when a flip chart fell over and break apart, he's ready. It's not part of the script, and he's still ready to take his tool out and fix the flip chart so the training can begin. So if I had far more time with Artem, I would have loved to ask how he built his business utilizing this core dichotomy of his extensive knowledge of storytelling as well as his ability to throw his script out and be ready to live in the moment.
Okay, that was fun.
Everything that is based on our conversations, and if you're ready, if somebody can queue up the 2 or 3 slides that I have.
Yeah, I will.
So this idea of storytelling as recounting events is rather, to me, not actually a story. Okay, so if you can go to the next slide. If you forget everything else from this fireside conversation, and that is, if you recounting events is not telling stories. So I could easily pull up his CV, look him up on LinkedIn, and then go on and on about his resume. That's recounting events, but it's not telling stories. So what is the story? And that's the structure that I didn't have time to go over with everyone. I use a structure to help me quickly rearrange the fact that I've learned about him that I couldn't have learned from researching online about him. And I arrange it in the following fashion, which is the next slide. Probably everybody have known this golden circle of why, how, and what, right? You know what you do, probably know how to do it, but most people don't know why they do what they do. So Artem, questions for you. What is the main difference that you hear in the introductions that I just came up for you versus some more typical introductions that you've no doubt heard over and over again?
Well, to be honest, I'm hearing that you've put some assertions that like are living on this level of why, like deeper, rooted in the motivation part. And then you support them with several examples that I gave you, which makes them more grounded, I would say. That's a neat way to do it. I love this approach. Easy.
Yeah. So a lot of times we overly focus on our credentials. Like we went to this school, we have this credentialing, we work with these many clients, this is what we're good at. But these are all things that are quickly, easily available online. Anybody want to do a quick search on who you are, they'll find out. But very, very rare do people talk about their character. And that's not something that is easily available, quickly available, and yet this is what we react to emotionally. We get a sense of who this person truly is by understanding at least a little bit about his character. So that is the focus of why I didn't tell you why we're doing this. I didn't tell you to what extent. I did give you an overarching goal in the beginning, right? So I just introduce somebody everybody knows really well or think they know really well, but I brought a different dimension and element about him that is not easily accessible, and yet that's what people react to. And then there's a structure, right? The IRS, I basically use IRS as my guiding post, my guidepost to carry on these facts that I have no time to prepare or craft or think about or edit. So that's my spiel. Can I ask you some questions?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, if you want to come up with these great questions, I think it's on the next slide.
Oh, it's here.
IRS. We can also type it in the chat box. I have templates even. I have templates even for coming up with your own crazy good questions, like 10 different types. And here's the thing about leadership and storytelling. Oftentimes we focus so much on our story. How do we want to tell our story in an engaging, compelling way? But I think we ought to spend some time thinking about how do we get other people to tell their stories, and how do we become better at telling other people's stories for them. So with that in mind, man, I don't think we have enough time for, how much time do we have? I have 5 questions.
We do have till like 15 minutes, I think.
We have 15 minutes? Okay. All right. Let's tackle this then. So you started your career after university at Access Management.
I did.
And then after your 2-year stint with them, you said you left to look for your place in business. I love that phrase, by the way. So have you found your place in business? And if so, what is it?
I have. My place is called Academy Historia, and this is actually the group we are working in from right now. Uh, the key insight for me was I was trying to search for a tool or a process or a product that I could implement to raise money or gain more clients. But then after I realized that nobody needs any tools or products, they need to solve their tasks and attain their goals. I just really reflected, and by the way, your interview, the interview we did together, really helped in that matter. It really got me thinking of not what products I can do for people in terms of storytelling, but to what end I can do them. And as soon as I realized that my passion lies in helping people be people at the workplace, I just felt that there are some products I can accompany with it. But this is Academy Historia is my home, and helping people be people is the purpose of it.
I love it. Help people be people. Why is that needed? I mean, we are humans, aren't we? Like, why do they need your help to be who they already are?
I guess the pace. The pace is so fast that it's easier to be functions instead of people. And just to be clear, I know that our audience has I suppose that people listening to us have seen people that are actually not alive human beings at the job, but managers, trainers had that they do not lead a training, they read a training from a paper, or salespeople that do not help you choose, but rather sell. It's a small distinction. It's like against war or for peace. But the faster we go as a human beings, the harder it is to be human. The easier it is to be a function in an organization. And the pace is just crazily fast.
Yeah. We can get too caught up with our functions and forget that we need other people first and foremost in order to perform that function well. So in that regard, you have a lot of experience designing employee surveys and analyzing the data coming out of these surveys. So what have you learned about engaging leadership?
That was the area I began with. So in the beginning of my career, I was supposing that you could measure it, like understand what you can give to the people so they can engage into their work. But over the time, I just realized that whenever they measure it, there's not such a metric where instead of giving people something and waiting for them to be engaged, you just give them and don't wait for anything. There's never a metric for, I would say, altruism, but like this story Sean Callahan told in the morning. He told a story from Mars when an executive decided to sponsor a company in Russia, and for several years they were providing Mars products, and the company didn't pay much because they didn't have much money. But as soon as the economy recovered, it eventually became the biggest in the country and one of the best partners. I think this is lacking in any kind of engagement survey or any tool, because you cannot measure it. You can give, but you cannot it's hard to measure the intention with which the company or the leaders give to the people.
Okay, it is something that is hard to measure, but unfortunately, I've heard further from a lot of social scientists that if you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. Which
True.
It's fairly, I suppose, in an academic setting that makes sense, but in the world that you and I lived in, or everyone lives in, there are a lot of things that are there, and it's there. It can't be measured, or is extremely hard to measure. Okay, so then to what extent can you use the adaptation of storytelling as a proxy for how engaging an organization is together?
As a proxy, so like a measure to.
Yeah, as a proxy. So it's not a direct measurement, not a direct output measurement, but like, oh, this pleases people, like tell lots of stories, and then they're very into each other's stories. So I think we can use it as a proxy.
Yeah.
So to what extent can we do that?
Well, I would humbly say that I don't know much about corporate anthropology, just like our morning speakers, but I suppose that people really actually do that. Like they measure the anecdotes told in the rooms. And I had this instance once where Vladimir Dunkin, one of our speakers, told me that in one of the companies, he asked, what is it okay to do here that is just so usual that you just see it everywhere? And the reply was actually a small anecdote which illustrated that for a small mistake of one employee, a lot of people up the hierarchy were punished. So there's like, he could have been punished alone, but a lot of people were punished together with him because you could have done it. Why don't you punish them too? And this small anecdote of something that people are used to in this company is really a reference to what culture there is, what kind of company it is. And I wouldn't say it's positive, but then again, there's no such thing as positive or negative culture. There's only culture.
Yeah,
that's my assumption.
Yeah. Well, in the interest of time, I don't know if the participants have any questions. I'm just going to skip to the very end. I think all of us work hard to move the needles to get people to tell stories, to become better storytellers. And so I know we'll get there. And then once we get there, when more people adapt and become great storytellers, how do you think business will be different?
I think it will be, well, it will be too easy to answer more human, right? Because I totally believe that. I think that it's not only a skill that can help us in presentations, because at first I was really like, okay, this is for presentations only. But then I met the likes of Mary Alice Arthur, who will be speaking on Friday, Paul Andrew Costello, who will be just in my heart forever because we had a wonderful interview. And their the insight they shared about storytelling was that it can not only inspire, it can also connect us or heal our societies, our organizations. So the more we understand the story as an essential tool that there is to the human mind, because we are wired for it, the deeper we understand it, the more uses of it we can implement, and the better our society becomes. And I suppose that there's no limit, but I would say that it will be becoming more and more human in a good way.
Yeah. And what do you think are a couple of things that leaders should do to lead the way in adapting stories?
Oh, one of the major things, just one because of the time, is to realize where you are in terms of geography of the story. Because we usually say that a story is like oral telling, but this is an insight I got from Paul Costello. It's actually a space, a place, even. And you can be with your team in the beginning of the story, or you can be closer to the middle of the end, or whatever. You need to understand, to be conscious of where you are right now in the story you are living, not telling. And this is kind of a head breaker in some sort, because how can you live a story? But we are all living it. And like for the COVID part, where are we now? Is it middle of the middle, or not? Or is it just the end of the beginning? So, and it gives us a different feeling, because we can analyze it. We can really have a sense of what is going on in the world. Yeah, that's just one thing, because I actually have a question back to you, since since we are running close to the next session. And that is actually a question that I ask all the speakers. And I want you to continue this phrase I made up. So let's imagine that Her Majesty, the story, came to life, and she's about to teach leaders one thing and one thing only. Just one thing. So if that happened, that one and only thing would be?
Her Majesty, the storytelling queen, have descended upon us and has told us one thing and one thing only.
Exactly.
That it is important, it is the most important to recognize the humanity in yourself and others.
Great. I'll accept that. That's perfect. Thank you so much, Esther. That was fun.
Thank you. That was fun, and that was indeed fun. And thank you for indulging me for this very unconventional format. I often find that thoughtful conversations, Q&A between two people or a group of people, oftentimes the Q&A part is the best part of presentation, but they tend to be at the end. They tend to be very small, very short. So I wanted to turn this whole thing on its head. Why don't we have an entire thing be Q&A? So,
why not?
I hope that we have accomplished that.
Yes, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, please put a fire or an exclamation mark or a plus in the chat. And let's say our thank you to Esther for giving us these tools. I absolutely love the prep and the IRS. Easy and yet very understandable. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Enjoy, everybody, the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much.